modulars were already on the ground, he saw them. At that time, he also stated he saw no compliance issue as I could store personal property on the site. The day after the delivery, I received an email followed by a phone call from Jeremy Faudness in which he asked if these were simply the modulars he and I had discussed that Monday in our team's meeting. I confirmed that they were, and that no other development had been done on that site, nor was going to be done pending the completion of the zoning permit process with the city. He asked that I respond to his email stating this so that everyone in the city would be informed of what was going on and there should be no issues after that. I then received a phone call from the mayor asking about what activity had taken place on site. I told her that no development work had been done, that I simply conducted exploratory digging to confirm conditions of subsurface soils, measuring and survey of existing site conditions, received some pit run, and delivered the modulars that were placed on temporary cribbing per industry standard pending completion of the zoning permit application process and issuance of a building permit from the city. I made that very clear. I had no intention on developing the site. These were simply being stored pending approval of the process. I also informed her that one additional modular was scheduled for delivery that weekend. She asked that I submit a zoning permit application. I informed her that I was working on updating the application and getting answers to questions that the city planner and city engineer had asked. So the permit was not ready for submittal. She then asked that I just submit the application page as a measure of good faith to officially inform the city of my intent to submit, and that I was diligently working on planning with proper city officials. I agreed and supplied that document the following week. I believe that's supplied. After I supplied that document, I received notice from the mayor that due to an official complaint, this matter had been placed on the council's agenda for this evening. I was surprised but fully prepared to come here tonight and answer any questions that council members of the public might have, to continue a productive back and forth in order to continue to work with the city diligently. I was fully prepared to come here and just discuss openly what was going on. Unfortunately, this morning I received an official notice of violation from the city attorney. Based on that formal legal action, I have no choice but to heed the advice of my attorney, and I will not be able to answer any questions tonight. I do apologize for that, but this is very new to me, and I need to heed that advice. I need time to fully consider the notice of that violation and to consult with my attorney before providing a comprehensive and formal response. However, I do want to make it clear that I've been working with the city for several months to ensure that the permit application meets all city codes, and that I've taken no actions that I believe to be in violation of these codes. Again, I was under the impression that the city authorized the temporary storage of the modular homes on the property. My intention from the start has been to work diligently with the city, and that is still my intention moving forward. I think that if you look through the material provided to you, it is obvious that I was not hiding anything and that I had been discussing this with the city. And I did have this conversation, was brought up in that team's meeting. I moved forward with the best of intention, as I still will. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the public on this issue? Yes, sir.
I noticed that the city has adopted.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Vince Hoff.
Thank you.
I noticed that the city has assigned an address to the location. This is South Harrison Street. Does that mean that the city has purchased the land from, what's the name of it? Vienna Holdings? Or is the city just taking that land away from them? Or what? Because the end of Harrison Street is the south side of F Street. It stops right there and then it becomes private property. So if you have issued a permit in there, do we have public record of how you went about getting that access in there?
The city does not assign addresses. Addresses are signed by the county.
In the city?
Yes.
Well, is a county person here then to answer that?
Yes.
Who's that?
Mrs. Brown?
Well,
Will you respond, please?
I'm happy to respond, yes.
Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor, may I approach?
Yes.
So, Mr. Hoff, nice to meet you. I'm Nicole Brown. I've heard we've had some conversations back and forth.
Never met.
possibly. Yeah, no, we've never met. So I assign the addresses for the city. I am the county addressing coordinator. I'm also the county planner. And I can tell you that there is a survey on record in Broadwater County, and I'm happy to show it to you tomorrow during business hours, that shows a 30-foot access easement from F Street all the way to the northwest corner of this property.
not being a smart out, may I
Yes.
ask our question?
Follow up?
Can you read a tape measure? Because I know exactly where my property pins are at, and there's no 30-foot easement there. It's less than 30 feet.
Madam Chair, may I respond?
Yes.
I don't wanna make this long. Mr. Hoff, I can simply tell you that the survey of record does show 30 feet. So,
Well, your surveyor is wrong. Sorry.
anything further, Madam Chair?
No, thank you. Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yes,
My name is Greg Sotzer.
Mr. Sotzer?
My question is, as Mr. Hoff said, F Street, at the end of F Street is Harrison ends there. If you look in the Montana Cadastral, that property is owned by Copper Springs from the end of F Street all the way down. And the easement that she's talking about, same one Kenny Urick has, is through Copper Springs or Deanna Holdings now. So, I guess my question is, where's the city access to there?
Mr. Sosser, that would be a part of the zoning permitting process. Jeremy, could you speak to access to property in terms of development?
I mean, as part of the application, they're gonna have to show that the lot has legal physical access. Nothing's been submitted. All I can say is we've seen some stuff, you know, in our meetings, that there is an easement there. We'll just have to look at that when they submit an application and make sure that it really is legal and physical access to the property. If they show legal easement documents, to the property, and it's not necessarily as far as I know, at this point, he's proposing to rent these out. So it's a private property development. No, he's not selling each one of these units on their own lot or anything like that. So it's not a subdivision. So it doesn't have to go through the subdivision review process. It's essentially just, we have to ensure that the site has legal and physical access for emergency services, basically. So emergency services can get in there and physically access the site and get out of the site, if there's an emergency.
That would include city services as well?
Correct, yep, so water and sewer mains would be in that same easement, right? So we would look at, your city engineer would look at the easements to make sure that they're utility easements as well, right? And all those sorts of things, so, that'll be part of our permit review process.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Well, it answers my question. I guess I don't understand how 29 feet from there to his right-of-way into the property can control traffic of cars coming in and out. Doesn't make,
As part of the whole permitting, zoning application, permitting process, all of those things will be reviewed. Other questions this evening? Yes, sir?
So if you were to approve this easement that goes through there, that would legally open up a statute for anybody wanting to add on to the city of Townsend to be able to use an alley basically as a street, correct?
Jeremy, would you care to respond to that? Thank you.
No, it's not dedicated as a city street. It would be, basically, it's its own driveway access essentially to a private development. It's not a subdivision, so we can't require them to dedicate city street right of way like Copper Springs. Copper Springs is a completely different development, right? They're platting lots to sell for people to build on. In that process, we require them to dedicate city streets, rights of way, and build those roads, meeting city standards. This is not that, right? This is under a zoning process, it's a private property development. That is not a city street right of way. So somebody couldn't go on the other side of their property and say, I wanna annex and use that easement, because it's not a city right of way. That's a different thing, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
But in order to get that right of way, are you taking that property from Copper Springs, or are you compensating them for it? Because they own the ground.
The legal access that is required would have to be presented by Mr. McIntyre in his plans. Okay? I'm not misspeaking, am I?
No, and there's no right of way, the city is not taking any property. There's no right of way dedication for this project. Their claim is they have an existing 30-foot easement for accessing utilities to that property. Again, I've just seen some preliminary stuff that they've sent us. We don't have an application with those documents, but, the city is not taking any property. We're not requiring any dedication of right of way. They would be using an existing easement that they claim they have for access and utilities. So there's no right of way.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sotzer.
Well, then, I don't know, because I haven't seen the easement, but the way I understand it is an easement to access the property, not a utility easement. And if it's a utility easement and you're using city utilities, wouldn't it have to be the city's easement? I mean, if he has easement to access to his property, and now he wants to put utilities down there that run into the city, which they have to, because he's in the city limits. How does that work? You guys gonna run up and down the easement and put city services back there, and lift station, and?
Jeremy, would you care to respond to that?
So, again, I haven't seen any easement documents, so I don't know if it's a public access and utility easement. The city doesn't have to own an easement, it just has to be dedicated for utilities, right? And so, if that is the case, then the developer can put city utilities in there, and essentially all it is, the developer installs all those utilities, the city's not gonna do that work. It's responsibility of the developer to install the water and sewer services to his property, go through all the proper permitting processes, including DEQ permitting for all of those things, connect to existing mains on F Street, as appropriate, and then the sewer system at this point, I believe, is proposed to be private. It would be just basically, the city would look at it as a service, that would connect in on F Street. So the developer will maintain and operate their own private sewer system essentially. The only thing the city would end up owning, from our preliminary descriptions, is the water main. The city will have to own the water main because each unit will be connected to have its own service essentially. And so we will have a looped water main through the project that the city will eventually, once it's constructed, will eventually maintain and operate with easements.
Thank you. And at this point, all of this is speculative.
This is
because we have
speculative, it's just
no
based on preliminary,
application.
yes, correct, it's
Okay.
preliminary stuff that we've seen and talked about.
Point of information there.
Yes,
As clarification, the sewer system we're talking about would connect to the city sewer system. There's not a drain field, there's not a septic system.
Correct, it
It's
will connect,
entirely-
yeah, they'll have their own lift station,
Okay.
so they'll collect their wastewater on their site, they'll have a little lift station that'll then lift it up to F Street. That force main essentially would just be considered a service by the city. That way, that system is maintained and operated, because the city doesn't want to maintain and operate that, right? That should be their responsibility, essentially, to maintain and operate their own lift station, collection system, force main.
Thank you.
thank you. And once again, this is all speculative.
Speculation at this
Yes.
point, we have not seen plans
Yes,
or anything.
please state your name for the record.
Steve Kent, just to clarify, can you address where the city boundaries is to the south and east? Like on that map behind Mr. Brown? The upper one, Brett. Hey,
This would be a better map.
Basically, it's
Eric,
the,
Eric is bringing the city boundary map forward.
I think
This would be a better map, it's a little more blown up. Thank you. Thanks. So, yeah, it shows I Street and then coming over and down. Which year?
it just, I understand most of that is for the new development that is still in works and all that, maybe questionable, but to what he was saying, seems like you're opening up a big bucket of worms by allowing them to put their own sanitary system in, and then down the road, he's gonna sell the property, and what's gonna become of it?
So, once again, there are a lot of steps to this process, which includes an approval by DEQ on that sewer system.
Yeah.
Jeremy, would you care to add to that?
I mean, since they're proposing to own everything themselves and rent the units, it's perfectly legal for them to do their own sewer system. In Helena, we do projects like this all the time for apartment complex projects. The city doesn't want the sewer system, so they just, because they don't meter it, right? So they don't wanna maintain it, operate it, so we do private gravity mains and lift stations on the lots and connect into city city mains and streets. And then the water mains are typically looped through because then they have services and meters off of those water mains, and fire protection, right, fire hydrants and those sorts of things. So that occurs all the time. So it's not anything new that they're proposing. As far as if they do this and sell it in the future, I mean, it's not set up for individual sale once they do that. So it would take some doing to try to then turn around and sell individual lots or units in there potentially, I don't know. I mean, that's all speculation, I don't wanna really get into that much, but, all we can do is review what they're proposing at this time when they send an application.
Thank you. Any other questions? Andrew,
I have.
state your name for the record, please.
My name is Captain Andrew Herrick with the City of Townsend Fire. The only question I have, because I've missed a few of these meetings and this is new knowledge to me, with this proposed deal, since this is in city limits, will there be fire hydrant or hydrants or hydrant near that property? Because I know our closest one is, what street is that?
It's on F Street.
Down on F Street, right there, kind of the alleyway off of South Cherry down there, so I didn't know if there was gonna be one closer installed to that property just for, in case something happens.
So once again, as part of the whole permitting process, legal access that would allow for emergency services access to, and
Right, I just didn't know if there was gonna be a potential hydrant suggested, I just knew there was gonna be the access. So that was just my concern for public safety.
thank you. Appreciate that.
I can answer it.
Yes, Jeremy?
So, I mean, the developer and I and the city engineer have talked at length with the developer, about water. They're gonna have to provide a looped water system in there with a fire hydrant. That's gonna be a requirement. Again, we haven't seen plans yet, but that's been the discussion.
I just wasn't sure with it being a private little setup, so I was just curious.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
I wanna go back to the easement thing here, just for a minute. So, who owns the easement? Who wrote the easement?
Nicole, can you answer that?
Yes, Madam Chair, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm used to commission meetings and we have chairperson. So easements are actually unowned, and I think the best example, especially within city limits, to consider an easement, you can own the dirt under the easement, but no one owns the easement. So this is recorded as a 30-foot public access and utility easement. It was recorded that way. So again, the best example might be a city sidewalk. I live in town. I can own to the road. I own the dirt under the sidewalk. I own the boulevard. I can't close off the sidewalk. I can't close off the boulevard. So it's very similar when you look at these easements. The dirt underneath it is owned by Vienna Holdings, I believe is the name of Copper Springs. But the easement itself is unowned. It's an unowned entity. But Copper Springs, Vienna Holdings, does own the dirt underneath the easement, but the easement is a 30-foot public access and utility easement.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's not a public access
it is, actually, respectfully.
Okay.
It was recorded as such.
And I would remind you that Nicole also offered to show you the documents during business hours. That offer still stands?
Madam Chair, Madam Mayor, excuse me, yes, it certainly does to anyone in this room.
We'll get you taught up here. Okay, thank you.
Point of information here.
Yes.
Do we know, do easements have lifespans, or are they permanent?
Would you like me to respond?
Yes.
Okay. And Jeremy is also a good point of reference in this, being that he is also a professional planner. But no, they don't, unless they're written as such. Unless there is recording documentation, unless there is deed restriction, unless there is something that is recorded with that survey, which has happened, but this one certainly does not have a lifespan, which means it is there for perpetuity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments or concerns?
Mayor, could I?
Yes?
Could we have a brief summary of what an R1 residential zone limitation is? I'm saying a map, depending on exactly which one in this packet you look at. One map has 16 units and the other has 18 buildings. What does R1, or pardon me, R2, what does it mean?
So the Townsend zoning under R2 allows for multi-family dwellings. There's no limit. There's some density requirements. I can't remember exactly what they are off the top of my head, but they're so many square feet per, you have to have so many square feet of lot area per unit. As long as you meet that requirement, you can put, that many units on the property. With what he submitted, I kinda looked that over, it looks like he's got more than enough square footage for what he's proposing for units. So he meets the density requirements. At this point, again, I don't have an application in front of me, so, but from what I've seen, it appears that he'll meet the density requirements. The only question, I think, for me, that I don't know is on the units themselves, right? Because we do have some restrictions on manufactured housing versus modular housing. So I don't have any specific information on the units. So modulars are factory-built homes, but they don't have a trailer structure under them, right? They have to be brought in on a truck,
Permanent foundation?
and they go on a permanent foundation,
Okay,
right?
thank you.
Whereas a manufactured home is like a trailer house, right? It's got its own frame, it goes on wheels, it has a hitch, it gets pulled into a space, and then you remove those things and you put it on blocks and skirt it and that sort of thing. So I don't know what this is. Modulars have to be treated similar to stick-built houses. You cannot differentiate between, as long as it meets building code requirements by the state of Montana. So they would have to get, they either have to have certification from the state building division that they meet international building code requirements. Or the city building inspector would have to review them again. I don't get into the building inspection stuff, but if they're manufactured, we have a couple classes of manufactured homes, but both of them are conditional use permits. So if they're actually manufactured homes on their own frame with wheels and stuff like that, then they would have to go to the planning board for a conditional use permit process, which would require a public hearing. So those are just some differences, and I think there's some restrictions on like you can only have one manufactured home per lot. But modular, that is not a restriction. So that's just some information for you. Again, we don't have an application, don't know exactly what these are, so can't tell you which process or how we're gonna review that exactly, because I don't know.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Other questions?
questions yet, so,
That's early yet.
Here we go.
Go ahead.
so as it stands right now, a stop work order has been issued to Mr. McIntyre.
Notice of violation.
Okay. And not to do anything else.
The letter says, please be advised that I'm the city attorney for Townsend, Montana, and write you in that capacity. Arrowhead Improvement is the owner of the property, and on or about May of 2025, with no prior approval by the city, Arrowhead caused 3 modular buildings to be placed on the property. I bring your attention to several provisions of the Townsend Municipal Code that have been violated by this action. Section 13.04.060 subsection A, no land hereafter shall be used or occupied, and no building, structure, or part thereof shall hereafter be erected, constructed, reconstructed, moved, or structurally altered, and no development shall commence unless it is in conformity with all the regulations herein specified for the district in which it is located. Section 13.16.010 subsection A, subsection 1, subsection A, a zoning permit must be obtained from the city of Townsend before any building, structure, or land may be used or occupied, or before any building or structure permitted under this ordinance may be erected, placed, moved, expanded, or structurally altered. A zoning permit may be issued only when the proposed building, structure, parcel, or use will meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. 13.16.020 subsection A, subsection 1. Zoning permit must be obtained from the city of Townsend before any building, other structure, or land may be used or occupied, or before any building or other structure permitted under this ordinance may be erected, placed, moved, expanded, or structurally altered. The city of Townsend may issue a zoning permit only when the proposed building, structure, parcel, or use will meet the requirements of this zoning ordinance. In an email to the city's planning director, Mr. Jeremy Fadness, dated May 15, 2025, you explained the modulars are just being stored pending the zoning permit process. The city rejects your explanation and demands the removal of the modular homes from the property